Mary Michele, are you singing now?
I think it's really beautiful music.
Good morning, Mary Michele.
Very soothing.
We got you up early today, didn't we?
We certainly did. I came in with wet hair.
I noticed the towel. I thought it was very appropriate. It's not Halloween, though. It's okay. I know a little later on today you are going to be looking at our chart.
Yes, I'm going to do a chart, a birth chart for the day that the station opened, but also a solar return, a birthday chart of today, to see what the year ahead is about.
All right, but we're actually celebrating 37 complete years of service, I guess is the best word, to Northern Westchester.
Exactly. And I had a question, actually.
Yes.
I wanted to know about this Operation Snowbird. Could you tell me something?
Operation Snowbird. The first year this station went on the air, we were sitting here. It's the first time in the history of Northern Westchester that they had a local source of information of service to Northern Westchester. Pleased to welcome back after a 3-minute hiatus, Mary Michele. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. As you can see, I've got my friendly pumpkin here with me today.
And I have my friendly anniversary cake here, which is probably just as good. Talk to us about, you said you were going to do something.
Yes, I'm going to do the chart. I'm going to look at the birth chart of the station. So this was, exactly the time that the station was born. It first broadcast at 6 o'clock in the morning on October 27th, 1957. So you can do this, rather like you would do a chart for a country or an event or whatever. You can do this for the station's actual time that it started. And we look at this as being the way that you can interpret the things that the station has done for the area over the years. The station was born with the Sun in Scorpio, Neptune in Scorpio, Mercury in Scorpio, and the North Node in Scorpio. It had a lot of Scorpio issues that, when it first started, that were kind of prevailing. And Scorpio, as you may or may not know, is the sign that likes to get to the bottom of things, likes to do a lot of research, is very interested in transforming itself. Scorpio is the sign that rules death, sex, and taxes. So I don't know how these issues relate necessarily to the station, but I do think that it has been a station that has been constantly transforming itself. And the birth time, the ascendant as we call it, is the sign of Libra. So Libra is a sign that's very diplomatic. It's the personality of the station. The sun is the essence of the station. Libra, the ascendant in Libra means that there is an ability to speak pleasantly, to work well with people, to be diplomatic in the way that you deal with others. So I would say that probably the station has had that kind of it's portrayed itself as being like that throughout the years that it's been in serving the community service of Mount Kisco and all of the towns around. Let's see, the midheaven of the chart, which is the area of career, which shows exactly how the station would like to be recognized in the outside world, has the sign of Leo. So there is something very theatrical that the station likes to be seen in a theatrical way. It likes to have fun. I know just in the short time that I've been here, there's a great sense of camaraderie with all the people that work here. And they probably all like to be a little bit, schmaltzy.
Be careful
maybe.
what you say here about us.
Well, myself included, I'm part of it. I can't, But I mean, there is this nature of wanting to have fun with a little bit of pizzazz and theatricality and just, making things fun and entertaining, as well as actually servicing the needs of information and communication and all that kind of thing. And the planet Uranus, which is the planet that rules the sign of Aquarius, which is both the planet and the sign represent the airwaves. The glyph for the sign of Aquarius are two little lines, one on top of the other. It's the highest planet in the chart. So it was really meant to happen. Now, whether it was meant to happen for the station or whether the station made it happen, it's always this is one of the things in astrology, it's kind of the chicken and the egg syndrome, which came first. The moon, which is very, very important, the underpinnings, the unconscious of the station, as well as the part of fortune, the way one makes money, the planet Venus and the sign of Saturn are all in the sign of Sagittarius. So what I've noticed is that there is an awful lot of programming here that has to do with helping people grow. There's been a lot of psychological programming where people start to learn how to deal with their psyche, and people coming on to talk about that, as well as healthcare issues. All of this it's being discussed in a philosophical manner, so that the needs of the station, the underpinnings of it, really wants to have some kind of a message. The sign of Sagittarius is about a message. Now, this can manifest itself with, like, lawyers or any person in authority. Usually is someone that will be the one that gives you that message. So there is something about the station that wants to have this feeling of inspiring people. Also, it's the way in which the station makes money the most is usually when it does inspire somebody. So I think even when they work with sponsors and advertisers and so on, the idea is that you try to get the sponsors and the advertisers to realize that what it is that they really need from the station, and how they would like to get their ideas across. This is very, very important. It's not just about, well, we're going to go sell something for the sake of selling it. It's because it's providing a service or a need or something that's important to the community. So that's the way in which the station will continue to make money. So going on a little bit to this, what we call the solar return. The sun comes back. Can you hear me?
No, I heard you. I was just trying to think of what I called it before.
Oh,
you
retrograde.
said solar return, and I said retrograde something.
Well, there's quite a difference, but I won't get into that. Anyway, solar return is when the sun comes back. Every year, as we know, we celebrate our birthday, but in actual time, astrology deals with what we call sidereal time. And if you know from having studied this at one point in school, there are 24 hours and 10 seconds in every day. And that time, the way we measure that time is in Greenwich, and then we have to make up for it every 4 years by having an extra day when we have leap year with the 10 extra seconds. So it will not always be the exact time or even the exact day that the sun will come back to exactly the same degree that it was when you were born. It does happen for this year that it is on the same day, but it is at 7 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. So that means that it's about 1 o'clock today is the actual birthday. Anyway, so the sun will come back to 3 degrees of Scorpio. And the sun, for this, a solar return is saying throughout the year what is going to happen and kind of the basic imprint. It's not exactly, nothing is set in stone. These are the stone, pun.
I heard you. I was getting out my towel to wave. I give up.
But the idea is that these are the choices that will come up. And there's a very strong emphasis this year with the sun being in the 10th house. Originally, the sun was in the first house, so when the station was born, it was about, the child and creating a new thing and new concepts and new ideas and so on. And now the station is going through a period where, being in the 10th house throughout the year, it is going to be dealing with the status quo. What do people in positions of authority think of the station? How does the station perceive itself in that kind of environment? It's terribly, terribly important for the station and the people that work here and the people that run it to think about the fact that we all need to restructure, but think about the long-term effects. The sun in the 10th is about working towards your goals, towards your career goals. And it also is doubly enforced because the ascendant for the year, the personality for the year, is in the sign of Capricorn. So the 10th house relates to Capricorn, so there's a double barrel idea of this issue of career. Capricorn is the person that runs the show, the person that runs the office or runs the bank or runs the real estate. Capricorn has to do with real estate. And there will be issues around real estate that come up for the station. The moon and Jupiter, the moon, the underbelly, is again where it was when it was born, which is very nice. Whenever the moon comes back to the same place, it's in the sign of Sagittarius. It conjunct the sign of the planet Jupiter, both in the sign of Sagittarius. There's a tremendous feeling of expansion this year. Mars is in Sagittarius. The only thing is that it might be of a more internal nature. So if, in terms of the station's need to look at new horizons or change itself in a very growing kind of way, it's something that will have germs this year. The beginnings, the seeds will happen this year, and then next year it will, actually be able to be more active in that area. The planet Venus is conjunct the planet Pluto in the sign of Scorpio. And a Venus-Pluto conjunction is kind of a nice thing in terms of being able to make an alchemical idea of being able to make lead into gold. Whenever Venus is conjunct Pluto, it shows that in some way the person or the event or the situation knows how to take something very, very inexpensive or very small and make it seem like it's worth a whole lot more. So this is very good in terms of. Are you following me, Mike?
I lost you after you used a new term which I've never heard before. I actually do listen, Mary Michele, and that was the northern node. I'd never heard that before.
The north node, there's the north node and the south node, and what they are points in space from the moon. They're like equal distance from the moon. I could explain it better, but I can't think of the words right at the moment. But anyway, there are not actual planets or bodies or constellations. They are points in space. And in astrology, we say they are the karmic bits of the chart. Now, in astrology, we try not to give any kind of spiritual rules or regulations or belief systems that one should follow, but if we were going to, it would be around the issues of the nodes. And the north node, the idea is that the north node is where you're going, and the south node is where you've been. And the south node, being in the fourth house, in the solar return chart, shows that really the station has spent too much time being at home within itself. And now with the node in the 10th house, it's really about going out and creating more opportunities in the areas of career.
Okay.
But it's a karmic point. It's not... well, anyway, I can't dispute the fine lines of this or go on about it. But also, the part of fortune, which is another one of these points in space, which we look at quite frequently in terms of how we're going to make money. And this year, the part of fortune is in the sign of Aquarius, in the second house, which is the house of actually making money. So there will be very unusual ways that the station will start working with sponsors and advertisers and new programming and so on. I think VIP is in for kind of a little bit of a shake-up, but a fun one in terms of how to make money, which is what we all need to do.
That's right. We're talking to Mary Michele, taking your calls on astrology. Good time to get in right now at 241-1310, 241-1310. You don't have to be cosmic and talk about VIP. You can talk about your own birth date. Give Mary Michele a call, 241-1310. We have an open line. We will be back in 2 minutes. For the best fuel oil burner service and burner installation in the upper Westchester County area, give Marshall Oil Company a call at 764-5766. They offer fast, dependable deliveries, automatic fill service, 24-hour emergency equipment service, and convenient budget plans. They also stock a large inventory of replacement parts. So if you have a service need, it will be answered promptly and courteously. They also pledge to keep their prices at the lowest possible level. Marshall Oil Company has been providing quality service for the county for over 56 years and will continue to do so in the future. So it's easy to understand why so many residents and businesses in Westchester County have become such loyal customers. So for fast, dependable, and reliable service and the lowest possible prices, give Marshall Oil Company a call, 764-5766. Marshall Oil Company, striving to keep you and your family comfortable all year round. 43 degrees outside, and again, a couple of reminders for you. We do have a flash flood watch and a high wind warning in effect for the entire area. Increasingly cloudy today, and we're expecting rain to develop sometime this afternoon. Temperatures today about 60 degrees. Rainy, windy, cool tonight. Occasional thunderstorms. Rain may be heavy at times, causing highway and urban flooding. The overnight low in the mid-50s. Tomorrow, rain heavy at times again, specifically during the thunderstorms, and we'll have high winds tomorrow. That rain will taper off to showers by afternoon, high near 60, clearing out Saturday night, then Sunday sunny in the mid-50s. The following is a paid political announcement.
Everybody enjoy their morning walk around the village?
You know, I feel a lot safer these days.
You know, so do I. Have you noticed that there are a lot fewer people hanging around the streets lately? I wonder why that is.
I think it's this new law about hiring day workers they just adopted.
And all those illegal housing raids they've been doing. Do you know that you can go to jail in Mount Kisco for illegal housing?
Jail? Really? For illegal housing?
That's what I heard.
Wow, that's pretty tough. Well, you know what I heard? This guy that's running for mayor is a Democrat, Mark Farrell. He and his law firm have defended more landlords accused of illegal housing than any other lawyers.
You're kidding. Why would you vote for somebody like that for mayor?
Isn't that like putting the fox in charge of the hen house?
It sure is. Hi, I'm Mayor Richard Roth. 10 years ago, we began an illegal housing enforcement program in Mount Kisco, which has become the model for communities throughout Westchester County. In fact, we've never lost an overcrowded housing case.
If you don't want the fox in charge of the hen house, re-elect Mayor Richard Roth, Trustee Ralph Vigliotti, and Trustee Bert Daly. They've got a proven record of enforcing our illegal housing laws.
Paid for by the Mount Kisco Republican Committee.
And welcome back to Meet the VIPs with Mary Michele. Mike Sarnoff here, and if you'd like to talk to Mary Michele, 241-1310, the number to call. We are continuing a astrological horoscope look. What's the right word? I don't even know.
Well, the horoscope is actually the circle. It's the round circle, and astrology deals with it's kind of like the word philosophy or any kind of ology. It's the study of, and astro, of course, is stars. You know, and at one time, astronomy and astrology were part of the same science. Of course, I might get a little bit of feedback on this from astronomers who don't feel that there's any particular correlation. But of course, in the olden days, man was always looking for purpose and reason as to why, there were storms, or, the crops didn't come in at certain times, or, when to go to war and that kind of thing. So they looked at the calendars that they set up, and they were really amazingly accurate in the different kinds of calendars that they came up with. But they looked at these calendars as being part of what we call more of a circular way of thinking. If you think about time, the way we usually measure time, I talked about this a little bit before when I talked about the Celtic and the 13 lunar months, and we have the 12 months, which are it's a solar concept. It's much easier, more logical. The numbers work better when you work with the 12 months of the year. But, it's equally as important to realize that most things in life are not just about one level of consciousness. Usually when we talk to people, we're talking in many different on many different levels. I always remember in the Woody Allen movie Manhattan. Do you remember that movie? Mm-hmm. When he was talking to Diane Keaton, and they had these little bubbles over their heads, and they were talking to each other, but they were thinking something else.
Isn't that the way most people act, though? I mean, I would think. Well, never mind. Never mind. That's not the right subject for right now. But a question. You had talked about the Celtic, or I would say Celtic, except I'm not from Boston. But if you're talking about the Celtic way of looking at things, Halloween is coming up next week. There are 4 major holidays, if I'm not mistaken. We started on this discussion last week, and we never quite got finished with it. I wonder if you might go back to it. We are talking to Mary Michele, and if you have a question about astrology, give her a call, 241-1310. We have an open line now. What about the Celtic way of doing things?
Well, they believed, if they understood very early on, the Sumerians, which was the area of which is now present-day Iraq and Iran, and most of the cultures, the South American Indians and the Chinese, they had all, figured out how to measure time in the sense of how the Earth moved and at which times where there was more light and less light, which is how, the equinoxes and the solstices were not created, but named, let's say, worked out. But in a lot of these places, they also looked very closely at what are considered the in-between times. And in the Bible, they talk about it, Matthew, Luke, John. Oh no, here I go again. Well, anyway, they correlate to the 4 seasons as they really begin. And if you think about it, the 1st of November is the time when the Earth really starts to die. Up until then, there has been kind of life. There's been greenery. But in the fall, in particularly, right, usually, I know that everything's moving a little peculiarly these days with the trees and the weather and so on, but most of the time, the 1st of November is the time when the Earth starts to freeze, and it gets very hard and very cold. And really, these in-between times, these in-between holidays, were about when the Earth changes. And the 1st of February, which is also known as Groundhog Day, or the 2nd, sometimes these things would go off a day, is when, the groundhog comes out, but the idea is that the Earth is soft enough so that there's no more ice, or there's the possibility that there's no more ice.
Okay, dumb question. Mm-hmm. Groundhog Day is February 2nd, but when one thinks of, the groundhog coming out, it's Puxatawny Phil, the Earth doesn't get any cooler up in Alaska, or warmer. It's still frozen solid. I wonder how people can... I'm playing the doubting Thomas here. I just don't understand
Right, well,
that.
there are different myths, and this is something that I would like to explore, and I would appreciate any information that anybody has along these lines. I would like to explore certain myths and how they correlate. So it might not actually be in Alaska or Siberia about the ice, but there might be some other thing that they've noticed in the environment and nature that changes around the 1st of February. Also in South America or Australia. I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah, but they're beginning to go from summer to winter there. They're going from summer to fall. They're directly opposite where we are.
Right, but the point is that these are points in time that would relate somehow to the cycles of the Earth. That's really what it's more about how the different mythologies came up, the different concepts, and it was because people observed certain stories or certain myths. They're kind of like dreams. You know how in dreams you can think about Jello and iron. Now, one doesn't have anything to do with the other, but for some reason they make up some kind of a message for you.
All right. Before we go any further with this, we have a caller on the line right now. Ann is on the phone. Ann's date of birth is March 3rd, 1945. Good morning, Ann. You're on with Mary Michele.
Hi.
Good morning, Ann. Did you have a particular question?
Yeah, I've recently run across an old boyfriend from a long time ago who, expresses some sort of interest in a romance, but very reserved. I think he's recently separated, and I wondered if you can tell if there's going to be anything there.
Okay, you have the sun in Pisces, you have the moon in Scorpio, you have Mercury in Pisces, Saturn in Cancer. The moon in Scorpio, it's a time, there's a big shift going on right now. Scorpio is moving on into the sign of Sagittarius, and the moon is, it deals with our unconscious, our mothers, but it's also kind of how we attract people. And usually a man will be attracted to the sign that the woman's moon is in. So, it's almost like there's a big change happening for you in the way that you are able to attract people. Had you been involved in the last couple of years with anyone?
Yes.
You had. And
yeah, I'm recently separated too.
Right. Well, I think that it's a very strong possibility that the attraction is going to be very strong, even though it may be somebody that you've known. I think it's going to be different, the way that you're going to be attracted to the person. Just the nature of age, there's more depth, there's more understanding. But there still is a lot of fun there, and I think it's a good time. I think in your mind, it's going to be a little difficult to make up your mind about doing anything like that. And it won't be probably until the spring of next year that you will feel completely comfortable with this kind of a new interest or romance and so on. But I would certainly go with the flow of it.
Could I ask you, if one wants to contact you privately, how would one do that?
If you could call later at the station, and we'll talk then, and I will set something up with you.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you for calling in. You're very nice to people of my age. I thought that was mature. Thought that was very nice of you.
Is that what I said?
Yes. Makes us feel good. And again, if you have a question for Mary Michele, give us a call at 241-1310. Have we finished the Celtic?
Well, I only got as far as the 1st of February, and there are two others. There's
All right,
the 1st of
let's
May,
talk about those.
The 1st of May, which is, known as May Day. It's when, I think it was the Pilgrims danced around the maypole, was it? Or
Yeah, but you see, now May Day becomes kind of... The Russians celebrated May Day as something almost entirely different, but there it was. I mean, it was a reawakening, though.
Well, but that's exactly the idea, Mike. I mean, it is a reawakening. The 1st of May is when the earth blossoms into spring, and it's like everything is being reborn. There's a whole new hope and excitement about the year. And really in the Celtic philosophy, Samhain, what's going on now, the 1st of November, Halloween, was about the year dying. And the 1st of May was about the year being reborn. And then in between, we have the 1st of February, and then we have the 1st of August. And the 1st of August is really the time that the initial feelings of the earth, it's peaked. The energies have peaked. The flowers have gotten as big as they're going to get. And it's the beginnings of things decaying in August. And then in November is when the actual...
Like that.
You don't like that?
No, I'm thinking because the hottest month of the year is always August.
Right, and it's...
That's because of the tilt of the earth or something and the way the sun shines on it and the accumulation.
Right, and if you think about it, people, I think one of the reasons why most of us go on holiday in August is because we're a little more tired, I mean, there's kind of... That heat is something that can really... I know some people like the heat better than the cold, and there's no... Everybody's got an opinion, but I do think that too much heat is something that takes your energy away. Whereas, the cold is something that, it can either put you to sleep or it can really stimulate you to get moving. So it's, these are ideas, they're just concepts and ideas, but these are things that I want to explore because I think that the mythology and the history, the nature of astrology is very much like history. You want to look at cycles. You want to see, how people behaved in the past at certain times or how they reacted to certain situations because it's by observing these patterns in others and in yourself, and primarily, usually it will have to start with yourself, then you don't have to repeat the issue. If it's something that is not working for you, then you can...
I know, I'm sitting here because you said it has to start with you, meaning the individual themselves, but being honest with yourself is probably the most difficult thing there is in the world.
It is. It is. And I just, I think we all have to keep working and reminding each other to do that for ourselves. But, more often than not, I know that it's very easy for me to see other people's problems and very hard to see my own.
That's the way it normally, it's the way we are.
Right.
We're talking to Mary Michele on WVIP. If you have a question, 241-1310. We will be back right after these words.
This radio commercial is for everyone who carries a rabbit's foot, a horseshoe, a four-leaf clover, or believes in things like lucky numbers, crossing your fingers, or throwing salt over your shoulder. The New York Lottery has a new instant cash game called Lucky Sevens Bingo. So, besides your traditional up and down, across, and diagonals, you can now win by forming a 7 pattern. With 4 games to play and a top prize of $10,000, this represents a real bonanza for those of us who recognize the power of a heads-up penny. And you know what? With so many ways to win, knock on wood, you can maybe even get rid of that horseshoe. They're kind of heavy to carry around anyhow. Lucky Sevens Bingo, the new instant cash game from the New York Lottery. Which way will you win?
Bonus days are here. Play Win 4 now through October 28th because the payouts are at least 20% bigger. So be daring, be creative, and choose 4 of your favorite numbers. New York Lottery's Win 4. Every